This video will look at the Spellweaver class in the Gloomhaven board game. Spellweaver's cards revolve around high-powered lost cards and element management. It has a small hand size of 8 cards, which places the card Reviving Ether firmly in any build you go for. Regardless of the cards you decide to take, it's important to make sure you can generate and consume elements purposefully to get the most out of your turns. You can build Spellweaver either as an AoE damage dealer or as a healer, as she has a number of good healing and support options. You could go either way depending on your player count and party composition, but here I'm going to be presenting a damage dealing build. Let's look at the cards and see if there are any standout cards that I definitely want to take while leveling up. I would say that the 2 standout cards that I see are Cold Fire and Living Torch. Cold Fire has the potential for an AoE stun as a non-loss, which I think is extremely good. Being able to up its damage with the fire element is also a plus, as the Spellweaver has multiple ways of generating fire. Living Torch is a non-loss with a decent 4 damage single target, but the 2 AoE damage with light consumption ups the value tremendously. The bottom is also a nice ranged attack summon, but in general we would use the card for the top portion. The most consistent way to generate light is with Flashing Bursts at level 2, so we take that. With Cold Fire, we want to generate ice and fire. I think at lower levels, Fire Orb is a great damage dealer that also generates fire. The Spellweaver also has multiple higher level cards that generate ice: Icy Blast, Frozen Night, and Cold Front. At this point, we have 4 cards we want to use for its top effect: Cold Fire, Living Torch, Cold Front, and Flashing Burst. In the final build, I think it's important to keep in mind that we need to pair these with cards that have good bottom actions. The Spellweaver is generally lacking in impressive bottom actions, so getting some larger movement cards will have good utility. Here are the cards I would take at each level, keeping in mind we are building around Cold Fire and Living Torch. Level 2. At level 2, I'm going to take Icy Blast to better enable Cold Fire at level 3. We'll take Flashing Burst at level 4 to prepare for Living Torch at level 6. Level 3. Cold Fire is a core card in this build. Elemental Aid is a great support card, but requires plant and air generation, which is more situational for the Spellweaver. Level 4. Forked Beam is underwhelming. The only reason I could think that is justified as a level 4 card is that it is Spellweaver's only non-loss card with experience on it that doesn't require an element. Spirit of Doom has a decent healing option on the bottom if you're going for a support build, and this is the first option we get at consuming the dark generated by Reviving Ether. However, we're going to go back to level 2 and take Flashing Burst to continue with the planned build. Level 5. At 5, I want to take Chromatic Explosion, since this enables all of my other cards with element generation. I would prefer to use the bottom since most of Spellweaver's bottom actions are somewhat bland. Engulfed in Flames is solid, but the Chromatic Explosion element generation on the bottom half is too good not to take. Level 6. We want Living Torch for its top ability. Frozen Night is also very good because you have a huge attack that can also net you a large amount of experience. The downside here is that you have to expose yourself to danger in order to get the full amount of the spell off. However, I think the bottom half of Frozen Night is actually very good, and gives us an opportunity to consume the dark element generated from Reviving Ether. I'm actually going to suggest taking Frozen Night at level 7. Level 7. I think Twin Restoration has potential, as it allows you to use a lost card 3 times when paired with Reviving Ether. Stone Fist requires plant consumption, which we can only get with Chromatic Explosion. Neither of these fit into our build, so go back and get Frozen Night. Level 8. Zephyr Wings is a cool card, but I don't think it's all that great for a level 8 spell. How often do we need 11 movement speed instead of the 8 given to us by one of our level 1 cards? The reason we would take it is for the loot option, which I think comes a little too late to be super useful. Cold Front is another AoE ice generating spell like Frozen Night, but can be cast at 2 spaces away. Here I would take Cold Front since Frozen Night is better used for its bottom half. Level 9. Here, I'm going to take Black Hole because using Inferno is borderline unethical with how good it is. If you want to play the game on easy mode and also take away all the fun from your friends, you can take Inferno. Black Hole is still really good as an AoE insta-kill, and the bottom can help you set up for a good cold fire turn. The end build I would suggest is Reviving Ether, Flashing Burst, Cold Fire, Chromatic Explosion, Living Torch, Frozen Night, Cold Front, and Black Hole as a flex spot. Living Torch and Flashing Burst pair up for light consumption and generation. Cold Front and Chromatic Explosion will generate the ice and fire for Cold Fire. In general, I would use Chromatic Explosion, Frozen Night, and Reviving Ether for movement. I included Black Hole just because it's a good card, but I think a more synergistic option might be Fire Orbs for standalone fire generation on its top and movement on the bottom. This would also allow us to use the bottom half of Flashing Burst for movement and Chromatic Explosion for light generation once we use up Reviving Ether. I think you could also even include Ride the Wind in this slot for the huge movement on the bottom, since there is so much competition for top actions in the Spellweaver cards. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.